With over 45 years of experience as a clinical psychologist, aging specialist, and life coach, Karen Millet is committed to guiding older adults and their families through the complexities of aging and retirement. Her focus is on the non-financial aspects of retirement, helping individuals navigate emotional transitions, embrace new roles, and thrive in their golden years. Karen's expertise spans a range of disciplines, including wellness, integrative and holistic care, caregiving, and the broader challenges that comes with aging. She believes in the power of preventative wellness, supporting immune health and creating a lifestyle that promotes longevity and vitality. Karen believes aging is not just about facing challenges, it's about discovering new opportunities for growth, fulfillment, and joy. Welcome, Karen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I am just thrilled to be here.
Now, with your extensive background in clinical psychology and aging, you've helped countless people navigate the emotional transitions of retirement. What would you say are the most common emotional challenges that older adults face when transitioning in retirement, and how can they better prepare for these changes?
I think the biggest challenge is that most people don't think it's going to be a challenge because they think I'm getting to the goal. The goal is retirement. And so, I should be happy because I finally am here. And then they realize as they go through the stages of retirement that it is not all that it's cracked up to be. And they are oftentimes thrown by that because they figured that, I'm going to have this life of leisure and I'm going to have all this time and I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And then they realize, oh my God, I have all this time. What do I do with all this time? Now it's a lot of time. And my life is no longer structured. And I have to figure out what is really important and how do I plan for the future with all this time on my hands. That yes, I can do some things like going to play golf or spending some time with friends, but after a while that gets kind of old. And then they figure out I don't have purpose and meaning and I'm not sure who I am anymore, and I'm not sure where I fit. And so that's when oftentimes people will come to me and say, what do I do? What do I do next?
Wow. So it's funny you say that because I often tell people at retirement, I'm not going to not do anything. I'll have a business, volunteer, do something. And I guess that's the trend that's called unretiring. How do you help people, or more people deciding that, and how do you help them navigate that? Like, how do you help them determine which way to go? Not working still, whether it's your own job or doing volunteer work or just relaxing. How do you?
Well, I mean, part of that is to determine what really is important to them. And so for some people, they need money. So financially, it is important for them to actually make money. Other people, it's the job that really gave them identity. And so now they just feel lost. And so they still want to find some way of contributing. Whether or not that's for money or a job is sometimes up in the air. I think more than anything, I try to give people permission to explore because sometimes you don't always know. And that is, I think, the beauty of doing and starting things a bit earlier than once you are already retired. It's not like you can't do it when you're retired, but it is probably the best information that I can say to people is the earlier you start planning and trying things out, your transition will be a little bit easier. But if you don't have time because your work world is just, and your family world is just too much, that may not be possible for you. So I give them permission to take the time and to recognize that it's a process, not an end date. Retiring is sometimes something people do over and over. They said, "Oh my God, I think I need to go back to work. Oh my God, I'm lonely. I don't have people that I can hang out with because I'm not working, but everybody else is. I'm not around my family. I don't know if I want to be with them or do I want to be with my friends?" There's a lot of unanswered questions that sometimes people will not really think through and they just do something. And then it can be very costly financially because sometimes they move across the country. Oh, I want to live in, Florida. And then they go to Florida and they say, "Oh, I hate Florida." It's like, I thought it was going to be very different than it is. And so there are ways to be able to tackle these transitions that are more planful, that are not necessarily going to give you so much financial stress, so that you can try some things out and then say, "Yes, this is really good for me," or "No, I learned about myself here and this isn't really going to work." And so it's kind of like being an adolescent all over again, trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do.
Ever have clients who have, I guess you could say, I won't say lost dreams, but maybe something that they put aside. For example, for years, I thought I would be a singer. I love to sing. I moved to LA for the music industry, but realized quickly I didn't like the music industry. So every now and then I think that at retirement, maybe, have an old lady band or something. Just for fun, sort of to rediscover those old things that I put aside. Do you ever have clients that do that or think of doing that?
Oh, all the time. And especially with music, actually, but it's not just music. I do think one of the things that I do ask people is to really go back in their history and to really look at the things that were important to them that maybe they didn't do because it didn't make enough money, or for whatever reason they chose a different path, because that shows that there was something they had interest in, potentially passion in, and they can do it now without fear of judgment. That is, I think, the beauty about aging. Sometimes people have a little hard time with that. They're always thinking, "Oh, what are they going to think of me if I do this or that or whatever?" But I have a number of clients who continue to do things as musicians. I mean, even when they're going to be moving, they are taking their home studio with them somewhere, and because it's important to them. I have a number of clients who music has been a part of their life. It may not be the way they live their life, but it is really important for them in retirement. For these 70-year-olds, sometimes 80-year-olds, who continue to create in ways that they enjoy. And it's just wonderful.
So let's tap on into wellness. So in your experience, what are some of the most overlooked aspects of wellness that can make a significant impact on longevity and vitality, especially later in life?
So, nutritional healing, I think, is a huge part of wellness, as well as exercise, obviously. But I am very interested in helping people get off of medications if they can possibly get off of, medications. And if you realize what you put in your body has a big influence on how you are processing things, it is important. And it's not like you have to have everything that is organic or healthy, and you don't have to, cook everything in your life, even though that would be wonderful if you can. And if it's a passion, it is for me. But for most people, that's not their passion. And so it's, how do you find ways to eat more healthy and be conscious of how that transfers into a healthy lifestyle? and or what you're doing that is unhealthy, that is creating some of the problems that you're having, and can you do a shift so that you can get your life back on track and not have some of the medical issues, because medical issues is what oftentimes stops people in their tracks, in the area of aging and health and longevity.
So are you basically in your work, are you tying together both the wellness as well as helping your clients deal with identity and lifestyle changes and sort of combining them together?
So I have a nine point plan that I have people go through, and one is, spiritual work. They do work on spiritual work. They work on health. They work on place where they're going to live, and they work on family and relationships. They work on hobbies. They, all these different areas that they need to, work on, and depending on whether or not it's my coaching business or my psychotherapy business, I still help people look at all of that and to work on some, you can't work on everything all at once. You'll be overwhelmed. So you have to pick what's most important to you, or where's there the biggest gap between where you are and where you need to be. And then to put some small things in place to begin to make the changes that you need to make so that you can be planful in this journey. And it's a process. I mean, I have some clients that have been with me for quite a few years, because I don't meet with them every week. Sometimes I meet with them every other week. Sometimes it's once a month. Sometimes it's quarterly, just to reassess where they are and what's working, what isn't, and where they want to go. It's so much fun to watch people evolve and find their purpose as they age.
I had an aha moment. People go to their financial planner, etc., which is basically in our intro, to plan for their retirement. But it isn't, and that's often stressed. We always hear about that, but we don't hear about also having someone to do what you do, planning for the other parts of retirement. And they should both be hand in hand, I get not hand in hand, but probably occur at the same time. Start planning and plotting out later.
Right. So I have a number of retired CEOs, and they have said to me, we have spent so much time, even in business, planning for the financial part, and I never even thought about this part. It just didn't even come into my thought process. So I do think and because we're living so much longer, the amount of time we have to plan for around these other things is much longer to do. I mean, it's not just living another 10 years. Sometimes it's living another 30 years. Yeah. I mean, so both creates issues. I mean, financially, you have to be able to support yourself or figure out some ways to manage with some of this. And then the other part is, what am I going to do with my time, and how can it be joyful versus just sitting in front of the TV, and which right now is usually not very pleasant. And so we need to find some other ways to do things and to meet people and to expand our world, because a lot of times our world gets narrow when we leave work. A lot of the social things that we did and the people we hung out with, or sometimes we move, or sometimes people die. There's a lot of reasons that there are changes that you have to adjust to. And being flexible and being resilient, all are things that you can learn to get better at. You may not be great at it now, but that's part of what I work with people on, is how do you use those muscles and develop them. Just like I just did a workout, earlier today. So, I try to practice what I preach, with doing physical things to get myself so that I will stay in a healthy place. We can't always determine all our health. I mean, some things happen beyond our health, but putting ourselves in the best place possible physically by working out, going to classes, going to yoga, going to Tai Chi, finding whatever you can do, just walking, having a walking group. Anything that you can do to get movement and healthy parts into your lifestyle, and and then use the knowledge that you have of you. Like, I would love to say that for me, that I wake up in the morning and do 20 jumping jacks and yoga and everything else. Well, you know what, that does not happen in my life. I make my coffee, I do my reading, I'm very intellectual in the kinds of things I do. However, I plan in my week by having appointments with a class or with a trainer or something to make sure that I stick to something that I know is good for me. Because I know me enough, if I don't put it in the calendar, it's not going to happen.
And what would you say to that viewer out there? I feel like I'm reading somebody's mind. They're like, Sunita, Karen, I'm busy enough. Already just planning trying to plot out my financial at retirement. I don't have time to think about that other part right now. What would you say to that lady?
I would say, take some time on the weekend and do a little journaling, so that you can at least get some of the things out of your head and onto paper, so that you have some things to go back and look at over time, even if it's just 10 minutes. I would say that just begin, and but put it in your calendar, because I don't know about you, but if I don't put it in the calendar, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I would say to do something like that. I mean, or you can take a inspirational course. I mean, that would be something for people to do. There's so many things online these days, many things without any kind of, you don't have to spend a lot of money to do that. And even the ones that are out there, you can do for very little. I mean, you can sign up for all these master classes of things that you might be interested in, and explore from the comfort of your internet home.
Okay, and for the other viewers, they're like, hey, I'm ready. Karen, how do I reach you? Do you offer, what are your offerings?
Offerings. I mean, I offer individual coaching. So people who want to see me as a coach, they certainly can do that at Karen@coachingagingadults.com. So that's my email, but coachingagingadults.com has where all my writings are. The other one is drkarenmedier.com. That's my psychotherapy practice. And so that part of my practice is covered by Medicare. At this point, that part of my practice is closed because I just have enough people that I see, and I'm really working on my coaching practice. But I am working on some courses that I'm going to do, but I haven't gotten them going yet because I'm mostly just doing a lot of writing and planning and working with individuals. So I'm open. If people want to do a group, I'm all for it. They just need to say, I want to be in a group. And I would be more than happy to put together a small group of people who are interested, where they can enjoy, talking with each other and with me as the person to guide them.
And you could do it by Zoom.
I do work with people all over the country and Canada. So I will let you know that I can do that. So
Okay. And the best place to go is to your website, or
the website is the best way. And there's a way you can just press a button and you can contact me and set up an initial appointment where we just can talk about what you're interested in, and we can go from there.
Okay, ladies. So you could go to her website. All that information is on the banner below. And thank you so much, Karen, for joining us. I love the concept. I think you might that should be a national movement. Really, it really should be. Okay.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here, and I loved all your questions. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.